What's going on, everybody? Peter Dewey with Minute Media here. Today, I'm joined by Golden State Warriors guard Brandin Podziemski, a member of the all-rookie team last season. Brandon, thank you for taking time to speak with me today.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
This season's gotten off to a fantastic start for you guys, the Warriors, 9-2 to start the season. After a kind of crazy offseason, obviously Klay Thompson going to the Dallas Mavericks. But before we get into that, I have a question I've been very curious about. I'm lucky to ask you about it. You and Jalen Williams both went to Santa Clara, and both became first-round picks and are now thriving in the NBA. And I'm just curious, what for you about going there kind of helped your development to become, an NBA player, make an all-rookie team, and become a quality rotation player?
Yeah, I think, if you take a step back before my time at Santa Clara, I was at Illinois where I didn't play. And I think that really taught me what adversity looks like, how to get through adversity, and how to play a role on a good team. And I think, a lot of people today, especially, picks, I would say maybe 10 through 60, everybody's accustomed to being the guy, taking all the shots, getting all the minutes. And you've never really had to face that, adversity of, hey, now I got to play a role alongside players that are better than me. And I think at Illinois, I learned that, and it helped me. It helped me be more grounded, and it helped me understand when I went to Santa Clara, like other people that had to play that role. So I was able to help them and understand, like, hey, I went through this last year. This is what it looks like. And through improvement, through working hard, you can get to where I was at Santa Clara. And I think a big reason I went to Santa Clara was seeing Jalen's success, seeing what he did those 3 years he was there. Every year he got dramatically better. So that speaks on the player development, and also speaks on his work ethic as well. And so I seen what he did, and I was like, I want to do something similar. And they made me priority, even though I didn't play at Illinois, which was really special to me. And so them just telling me, hey, we want you to kind of do what Jalen did. And, we want you to help us win, but we also want you to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And so it just made sense from an all around perspective. And I ended up there, and, now we're both first round picks.
How did those experiences at Illinois, at Santa Clara, help you last year, where you came in and first to start the year, you weren't guaranteed a spot in the rotation, and you played so well that you basically forced yourself into a pretty big role on the team? How did those experiences kind of help you go through that in your rookie season?
Yeah, so the Illinois part was about playing a role, understanding that at the highest level to start, I'm going to have to play a role. I'm not number one pick, number two pick. And the team that I was on isn't bad, so they're not looking to rebuild. So that means that logically I wouldn't, have a spot right away. And to have four Hall of Famers on your team, it doesn't help your case either. So I just knew, like, hey, you got to find what you're good at. What do they not do that you can do? And I think that was just kind of my mindset going in. Like, what don't Steph and Klay and Chris not like doing? Like, what don't they do at a high level that I can do? That are all things I can control. And so I just looked at it from that perspective, and it made it easy from a clarity perspective of, if I just do those things, there's going to be a spot for it. Injuries happen throughout the course of 82 games. That's going to happen. And so you're always going to get your opportunity. It's like, what do I do with that? And if you just focus on the things you can control, it makes it easier.
Definitely. Brandon, before we get into this season, I want to talk about your partnership with Invisalign that you're doing. I'd love to hear more about that and what you got going on with them.
Yeah. So I've been with them for about 10 weeks now. They've been great, super easy, super efficient. The Invisalign clear liners that I wear, 20 hours a day, fit in my pocket in the case they gave me. And so it's been very easy in terms of scheduling. Everything's kind of around my schedule, which I'm blessed to have them be so flexible with. But, I got to shout out my guy, Kevon Looney. He is partnered with them as well. And so I've known Kevon for quite some time now. And he really enjoyed it. Everything he said that they're about has been, held true so far. And so, like I said, I could be more excited to be with them.
That's awesome. Brandon, this year, you guys are off to, like I said, the 9-2 start. Really an interesting look. You got lost a few guys from last year's team, brought in some new faces. But what have you enjoyed most about playing with this team and playing with some of these new guys like Buddy Hield, Kyle Anderson, DeAnthony Melton?
Yeah, I think just the energy that everybody brings, and there's there's no egos. And I think, everybody has their personal agenda, their goal. what they want to get out of, playing. It's in every team. And so I think understanding what everybody wants to get accomplished individually, but also saying, I can put that on the back burner for a second and channel my, my thoughts, my actions towards winning. I think that's just been what we're doing, and we're all having fun doing it. And I think everybody knows that it could be anybody's night at any time. And so I think that helps by playing 12 or 13 guys. Everybody feels like they're going to get their opportunity. And so when we're out there, we're all playing as hard as we can for each other. And I think it's kind of wore down teams throughout the course of a game.
It's really cool you guys play in such a deep rotation. Obviously, something Steve Kerr has installed this year. What has been one of the biggest lessons that you've learned from Steve playing with him, or playing for him?
I think his perspective on things is really cool to see because, he won as a player, he won as a coach. And so for him being a coach now, he understands what the daily grind is for us, what our lives look like. Obviously, some of us have families, some of us don't. And so he understands that. But I think his perspective is, me and him, we're super competitive. And that's how he was as a player. And that's how I am. So we come from the same kind of cloth where he understands like my competitiveness because he was once that way. And I think we share kind of a connection there. And so we get to have a lot of conversations about how do we be super competitive, but how do we, channel the emotional part and, still be a good leader. And I think that's, where I've took a good stride this year from last year. And I think by doing that, he obviously, trusts me more and more. And, as a player, when your coach has a lot of confidence and trust in you, you couldn't ask for anything more.
You talk about making strides from last year to this year too. Was there something you set out to the last off season when you're getting ready for this year? A goal you set for yourself, like, hey, I want to make sure I do this season. Obviously, you guys want to win a championship, but personally, what was something you were focused on?
Yeah, I think being more mature, being more of a leader, understanding that Chris was gone, and so someone needed to handle the ball besides Steph. So whether that was starting or coming off the bench, just being able to lead a group of 5 individuals on the floor, and even though I'm the youngest again this year on the team, understand that people do look up to you, even though you're the youngest, which kind of sounds backwards, but as a point guard, people look to you to understand like, hey, what are we getting into? What are we doing? And so for me, I just had to be mentally ready for that. Having guys like Draymond and Wiggs kind of looking at me like, hey, what's going on? And so, it's a good, not pressure to have, but it's a good feeling that, people are trusting you to, to make decisions and make things happen on the court. And so that was kind of my biggest thing. And then, obviously the 3 games with Steph out, my scoring numbers, naturally are going to go up because it's less, it's more shots to be taken. And so I think I prepared myself that way. But I think the leadership and the maturity part was big for our improvement and for my improvement as well.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Brandon, I got one more question for you. You mentioned earlier that you played with 4 Hall of Famers last year: Steph, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. Do you have a story or a lesson that you've learned from one of them that really has stood out to you over your first 2 years in the NBA?
Yeah, I think all of them, but in more specific, Steph and Klay, just being able to understand that basketball is kind of what we do and not who we are. Um, they have things that they're very passionate about outside of basketball and, spend a lot of time on those things. And, it's always obviously basketball comes first to them and their families. But for me, just kind of growing up and, starting basketball late, I always felt like I was behind, the curve with everybody else around my age. And so I just thought, basketball, everything, my thoughts, everything I do has to be related around basketball. And that's how I'd be, the player I want to be. And for them, Steph was a late bloomer too, didn't get recruited out of high school, all those type of things. And, he finds a way to, find a passion outside of basketball. He's really passionate about golf, Klay's really passionate about the water and being on his boat. And so just from a mental perspective of being able to put basketball aside and be like, I have a passion for something else too. I'm not just Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, the basketball player, they're humans too. And so for me, it's just been able to find different passions and things I like and just kind of, being able to mentally take a break from basketball and understand that, I can put that aside and still be a Hall of Fame type player, just like they've done.
That's really cool. That's awesome to hear. Brandin, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. Best of luck the rest of the season for you guys.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.